IBM is probably a lot. Those two put together help with mood stabilization. And the Abilify is really there for the PTSD and depressive, sad, blue, anxious. Um, so that's why I feel like the Pravosin is probably not necessarily needed. I'm not your counselor or therapist, but you've got a very good head in your shoulders, and you'll be able to work through this, getting you some good symptom control. That's what the cannabis is about, so that you can kind of dig in there and work on your goals, go back to school, get your CNA if you want to, or do something even more if you want to be a nurse practitioner or a PA. Go for it. I mean, you don't have to limit yourself. Dad, did you have any questions?
I just had, because did you tell him about Heidi?
Yeah.
What did you tell him?
I said that she's being hospitalized right now and she's bipolar and they're thinking marijuana's the cause.
Yeah. So I just had a question about what kind of marijuana, or what's going on with the marijuana on the streets that possibly my youngest daughter bought versus the cannabis that's being used in this case for medical marijuana.
So quite different. So unfortunately, about 10 to 15 years ago, cannabis recreationally on the street, which is sativa or ruderalis, that's a species, people started crushing up medications and dipping the cannabis in it. And this is a way to get people more addicted. So the idea, there is literature that says that excessive cannabis use can cause hallucinations. That is well documented. However, that's very rare. Heidi probably got some cannabis that was actually dipped in ecstasy, methamphetamine, or even cocaine. Anything that dissolves in water very easily. And she would never have known. It could have been from the same person, and even the dealer could not have known. And the reason we believe this is because cannabis generally is more sedating, more like alcohol. And psychosis, if we drink too much caffeine, we can actually have psychosis. So those are more stimulating things: cocaine, methamphetamine, ecstasy, caffeine, Adderall. And it just doesn't fit that it's just the cannabis. Whereas the state medical marijuana program, we have one of the most complicated laws in the country. So in the original importation of cannabis, that came from Israel, Colorado, and California. And the licensing of the pharmacies, each pharmacy, we call them pharmacies here in Utah because they are staffed by licensed pharmacies. They cultivate and grow under armed guard. There's actually security at these cultivation areas. Most of them are in southern Utah, and each plant is tracked through the state's program, and that's called the EBS. So once Rebecca gets her card, I'll literally be able to go in and see exactly what she has purchased, when she purchased it, the amount she purchased it, because that is a medication. So the state law rides alongside the federal law in that federal law says that cannabis is Schedule 1, illegal. However, it has been decriminalized, and we probably will not see any kind of changes in the Biden administration because states have the authority to say, we have a waiver. And the waiver to the Schedule 1 is a medical plan. I don't think Utah will ever see recreational, but it is it's something that the way in which our law was written, it does actually require a lot of work to get a cannabis card. And I don't practice in the other states, but I'm familiar with laws in other states, and Utah's law is actually really good. It limits me as a provider to 600 patients. The licensed pharmacists are actually the ones that will work with you, Rebecca, to be able to get you a dosage. So these are PhD level pharmacists. It doesn't feel like a regular retail pharmacy, but even your entrance into the pharmacy is regulated with that card. The legal limit is 4.6 ounces or 113 grams in a 28-day period, which is not the highest in the country, but not the lowest. So Utah selected kind of the middle of the range. Generally, it would be surprising to me if you used more than 1 or 2 grams per day, which would be saying something equivalent to a very small amount. Medically, Dad, it is actually against the law to smoke marijuana. So we actually encourage patients to get vaporizers, which are little electronic devices, where you take the cannabis and you put it right on the top of a device and you actually inhale it. The reason for this is because if we put a flame to a plant, we actually begin destroying it. And I want Rebecca to get
the full amount.
The CBD, the indica, which is the THC, and the terpenoid. Secretly, the terpenoid will help with the endometriosis pain and the migraine pain. So there's three things that are actually chemistry of cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how it's different, is that it's an extremely highly regulated program, both
Right.
from how to get a card, who grants the cards, who goes into the pharmacies,
Right.
who actually gets dispensed cannabis. Green Health Docs doesn't see a lot of kids, but kids are eligible usually for seizures. And the reason why we're doing two pieces of the appointment is that we have a pretty rigid checklist that we do to make sure that Rebecca's a good candidate. And part of that is making sure that we actually have a real diagnosis, and she's got 4 that
Mm-hmm.
can be helped with cannabis. Even when people have had recreational cannabis, we always let them know that Utah cannabis is strong, meaning Utah medical cannabis is actually medical pharmaceutical grade. So it's been cultivated in Colorado, California, and Israel to have a symptom control and not a high or euphoria. Technically, it is possible to purchase enough medical marijuana to get high, but the cost is quite prohibitive, meaning that because Utah medical cannabis is so strong, patients don't need to buy but just a little bit to actually get the effect that they need. So even though it's a weird program and it's new to Utah, the legislatures really did their research and really put together a program that is very, very strong and very wise in terms of not allowing people access to cannabis that don't really need it. Did that answer your question, Dan?
Yeah, because that explains that this definitely wasn't just standard marijuana. Because
Correct.
the policeman,
Correct.
when did you tell him the story about December?
I don't. This is about my history.
Well, I know,
not my
but
sister's.
it helps me understand because I also know that it won't affect you, which it's not already. You know,
Yeah.
even from.
And I've admitted to Mom, my best friend, she has a medical card,
Okay.
and she would share some of her stuff with me, which is wrong, but
Well, in a sense, it is wrong. However, as a
It's
nurse
safer.
practitioner, it's actually helpful to me because then I know you're not allergic to it. Because
Yeah.
allergies to cannabis or allergies to new medications actually are real. We also have people that are allergic to the herbicides or the fertilizers. So in a sense, it relaxes me that you've actually
Yeah.
tried a cannabis,
Yeah.
but also a medical
But
cannabis.
And
Heidi,
but I
Heidi
was-
has also tried that.
I was gonna mention, no, she's been buying
Oh.
off the streets. But I've been
Quite a
using
bit
my
more
best
dangerous.
friend's and no one else's for the past year.
Mhm.
And I haven't had a hospitalization for almost a year now, which is big for me, considering
That is big.
2020 and
It
all
is.
But
that.
she's been
Yeah.
very it's
And
actually
I've
been working.
I've been improving.
She has been improving.
So in medicine, we call that a treatment trial. Even though it wasn't prescribed to you, you've tried it, you've been responsible with it, and the outcome has been good. So that'll go in your record in terms of the private medical stuff. None of that gets transmitted to the state. But clinically, that means that yes, you already had a positive treatment trial in a way that is good, normal. We don't put into your record who you got it from. We just basically say treatment trial has already helped.
Right.
That's kind of how we note it. And that gives the other medical providers an understanding that you're not going to be allergic to it.
Is that
Allergy-
illegal to do that, to share?
Yes, it is. Mhm.
Because it's just like smoking marijuana.
Yeah, so it would be like
Which is
sharing any
illegal.
other. Exactly. So it'd be like sharing any other prescription. It'd be like it'd be
okay.
like giving anybody buddy some of your gabapentin.
Right.
You know, they could be severely allergic to it.
Right.
And it's more about the clinical outcome. You know,
Right.
we worry about people having severe
Sure.
responses to things. The legality, we believe, we always hope that people understand harm reduction, whereas we would love, Rebecca, that you only had to have one medication. But that's not the way the world works, and that's not the way the female body works either. We would love for you not to have any medication. But
Right.
again, you've got these 4 diagnoses, and you've got things in the world that can help you, so we want to get you those things. Harm reduction is basically, you know, it'd be great for you to be able to go into a pharmacy and pick off a bottle of Tylenol, and Tylenol treats bipolar, but that's not the way the brain works. That's not the way the body works. So we try and do our best to get you the things that actually will help you the most. And your comment about staying out of the hospital is very important, because when you go into the hospital, what's the first thing they do? They change your meds.
Right.
And that can be devastating to someone.
It can be, because they don't even know
Absolutely.
the patient. Like,
You got it. It happens time and time again, and sometimes they even do it right there in the ER. They're going to say, okay, well, you're off this, you're off this, you're off this. Let's start you a new one because we have samples over here. So the staying out of the hospital is important. Obviously, if you need to go to the hospital, you go to the hospital. But you being managed at home, in the community, is one of those things that we want, because that means that you're getting better, and that means you don't need that higher level of care. I think Heidi will be okay. The thing about stimulants is that they wear off really quickly. So could she have gotten some cannabis that was dipped in an amphetamine? This is probably what happened. But the thing is, cannabis stays in your system for a month. Methamphetamines, cocaine, ecstasy, those stay in your system days. So she will literally be better in days, and it just sucks. Her experience does not disqualify her to get a medical cannabis card, and I hope that she'll pursue that. You know, just bipolar is not written into the law. However, we have many patients that have bipolar, where we talk to them and we evaluate them, and they have plenty other qualifying medical conditions. So you only
She's
have to have
got quite a few, actually, doesn't she? She's borderline.
well, not, I don't know.
Not officially.
Not officially.
And
Yeah.
is that borderline personality
Yeah.
disorder? Yeah. So there's, in the state of Utah, there's what's called the long application. So PTSD is literally written into the law, hands down. Chronic pain, migraine, endometriosis, literally written into the law. Nausea. So you've got conditions that don't require the long application. But when someone has already had a good experience with cannabis, and that's called a treatment trial, and they have documented other stuff, and we think it will help, they can get certified through the long application. And it does take a little bit longer, but we push people through that process frequently. And the state of Utah has been very generous. The long application is called compassionate usage. So we do the long application, we do a telehealth, a face-to-face, and then we take that application and we give it to the state, and we say, we really think this person will benefit from cannabis, even though they do not meet the state requirement. We still think it's a good idea.
Oh, I see. It's a state
And almost
requirement.
always the state approves it, because we're licensed healthcare providers. Now, the cannabis may or may not help. Rebecca, it might help you for 3 or 4 years, and then it stops. It's just like any other thing, that it may be a good choice right now. You go on, you have 2 babies, the endometriosis gets better, the bipolar gets better, and you might not need it. But once you do get a medical cannabis card, you have a lifetime access to that card, meaning that your rights to that card do not expire just because of time or you improving. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So the PTSD, the chronic pain from migraines, and the nausea. Migraines and nausea. Do you guys have any other questions?
Well, I mean, I was going to say about in Heidi's case, when in December, she was acting very manic.
Okay.
I mean, extremely manic, right? Would you say? Were you there? No, you weren't there.
I was there part of the time.
Yeah, fortunately you didn't see that.
I did
it was
see
scary.
it. She was.
It was really scary.
It can
And but the policemen were really surprised. They're like, marijuana doesn't make you do that. They said when you have marijuana, you're a buddy. You just become friendly. And so that's why
I
I
like
believe,
those police.
Hold on. So what I believe is it was definitely laced or with something.
I agree with you, Dad. And you know, it could have been laced with spice, which is an artificial type of cannabis, which is not cannabis. Spice, being an artificial cannabinoid, does sometimes react, but it's more like a stimulant that's been cooked up in a lab.
Yeah.
So the stimulants on the street, for example, PCP, with methamphetamine, Adderall crushed up, cocaine, caffeine, which is sometimes a stimulant, and then spice or K2, which is a synthetic cannabinoid. It is quite different. It's dangerous for people. People can have heart problems. So
yeah, she said it was like a powder substance that you put in a bowl.
Exactly. And unfortunately, even things like fentanyl and Lortab can be crushed up. They dip the cannabis in it, allow it to dry, and it doesn't look any different because it's just been soaked in. So it is quite dangerous to get medication off the street because you really do not know what it is.
Not very regulated.
No, not regulated at all, and not taxed.
The logic is, oh, I know a plug, and then this plug's like, oh, I know a plug to start plugging to. Like, it just keeps going and going. That's the logic of the streets, basically.
Yes. All right, well, it's good to meet you guys. Rebecca, do you feel like you have an understanding of why we're doing two separate appointments?
Yeah.
Because it is basically to make sure you're the right person, and I do think you are. I think, like I said, you know, I certify people as well. I work down in Orem every once in a while, so there's a possibility I'll meet you at some point. The providers that we have Dr. Dugar, which is our medical director. We've got Eric, Chad, Kristen, Michelle, and myself, which are all either PAs or nurse practitioners. And we use the same model, meaning we have the same checklist that we go through to make sure that this is the right choice. And the only thing is, I'll caution you, when you first go to the dispensary, your natural desire will to buy a lot, but don't do that because it is very strong.
Right.
And you'll want to figure out. We say start low and go slow, meaning that many people purchase like $10 of product, and they'll cut it up and they'll try it and they'll say, I didn't notice anything, but I'm not worse. They'll go back, they'll try something a little bit different. There's a lot of fine tuning, and
right.
that primarily is because it's a plant-based medication, not a chemical pharmaceutical, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Is it HSA approved and stuff like that, or do insurances cover this?
In different states, yes. So you always can use your HSA card for the office visits. At the dispensaries, because of federal law, they're all still cash-based, which is kind of a hassle. But you can actually take your receipt from a dispensary and then get reimbursed. And for example, yeah, isn't that interesting? And that's just because so few banks are willing to work with the cannabis industry.
Oh, I see.
Eventually, there'll probably be a little bit of a cryptocurrency just for medical cannabis. But we can always provide you a letter to go with your receipts to an HSA. Up in Alaska, the rules are written actually different. So the law actually says insurance companies must provide access. So insurance companies just like Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross up there, they actually
for you,
pay for
you're
it.
Medicaid.
I have Medicaid.
She has Medicaid, so
Utah
she would have to
Medicaid's
just get reimbursed through Medicaid.
Yeah, Utah Medicaid's really great insurance. It's you know, everybody in the state carries it. Let's see, mango and Delsum were your only allergies. Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna say goodbye to you guys, and I appreciate you spending so much time with me. Thanks for being a part of this day.
One question, like, what are my next steps?
So my next step is I type you up, and then I'm going to put your medical records on file, and then looks like you've got an appointment on the 12th at 5:20 in Orem, and you just show up with your ID.
Okay.
and then we'll take you through the process. If you have a laptop or a tablet, you can bring that, because all the applications in Utah are electronic. But you don't have to do that, because we're really good at kind of teaching you how to do the application online, and we actually pull you all the way through that. All the cards in Utah are digital, so they do not mail them to your home. They just process them. They go up to the state health department. The nurses look at them, make sure everything's okay, and then you get an email with a digital card that you actually print out.
Okay.
So it's actually pretty easy. Most cards come within about 3 or 4 days after your face-to-face appointment in the clinic.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
All righty. Well, you guys have a good rest of the day, and just keep that appointment on the 12th at 5:20 in Orem, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.